Hi friends, Andy Lynn here with Align Mold Consulting. I want to talk about mycotoxins today. Did you know that mycotoxins are used in biowarfare? Yeah, definitely not joking, and I have proof and I want to talk about it. So in front of me today, I've got a military textbook. Specifically, it is the medical aspects of chemical and biological warfare. It's a big textbook, just part one. I just want to skip ahead to chapter 34. Got a whole chapter dedicated to trichothecene mycotoxins. So for those of you that don't know what a mycotoxin is a secondary metabolite of toxigenic species of mold. So not all molds are toxigenic, but what makes a mold toxigenic is its ability to produce this secondary metabolite called a mycotoxin. Trichothecenes are a large group of mycotoxins. For example, if you've heard the term black mold, that's a very misused colloquial term. It's very overused and misused, but it is referring to a specific genus of mold. Typically, people are referring to Stachybotrys, and Stachybotrys is a genus. And among that genus, there's a number of species, and many of these species will produce a mycotoxin called a trichothecene. So when you hear toxic black mold, they are referring to trichothecene. Okay, so let's get into it and see what they say about trichothecene. So I won't read this whole chapter to you because it's pretty lengthy, but I just wanted to point out a couple things. Here it says that in larger doses in humans, aerosolized trichothecenes may produce death within minutes to hours. Down here it talks about the specific toxicity of this T2 toxin, which is a trichothecene, one in the group, through inhalation. Over here it says that trichothecene mycotoxins are toxic to humans, other mammals, birds, fish, and a variety of invertebrates, plants, and eukaryotic cells in general. Once the trichothecene mycotoxins enter the systematic circulation, regardless of the route of exposure, they affect rapidly proliferating tissues. So then it goes to say again that trichothecene mycotoxins are cytotoxic to most eukaryotic cells. Also, this is really interesting. The lipophilic nature of these toxins suggests that they are easily absorbed through skin, gut, and pulmonary mucosa. And so what this allows for the toxin to do is really get in to your body and cause systematic damage. And this is partially the reason why symptoms can look so different in folks. Also, the degree of illness in an individual exposed to trichothecene mycotoxins could be affected by a number of factors, including the nutritional status of the host, liver damage, intestinal infections, route of the toxin administration, and stress. And we also know it has a lot to do with genetic predisposition, underlying conditions, past exposures. There's a lot of factors. And so it's absolutely makes sense that not everybody is affected the same way at the same time. Also, the symptoms of clinical signs of trichothecene intoxication can vary depending on whether the exposure is acute or chronic, which is interesting. And when we have water damaged building materials in our home and we spend so much time in our home, chronic exposure can really add up, and that's important to know. So, it talks about a few different kinds of trichothecenes, and one that they talk about is this T2 toxin. And it says here, because of its availability and relatively high toxicity, T2 toxin has been the most extensively studied trichothecene mycotoxin. So, all right, this is really icky, and but people are going to say, well, this toxin is not in our home. So because I do what I do, and I love environmental testing, that is my niche and my area of interest. And because of what I do, I was able to run a mycotoxin air test in my home. So this last year, my health started to decline again, and I started feeling like I was being exposed to mold, but nothing was visible, nothing was obvious. We ran a number of spore trap air samples in our home. We had it inspected, and we did not find anything. There was nothing visible, right? But I was adamant because I felt like I was being exposed. I am a mold radar. So we ran a mycotoxin air test in my home, and look at this. So one of the things that this air test looks for is trichothecene, but specifically one of the trichothecenes it looks for is this T2. Remember, it's highly toxic. So it is present in the home or in the environment if it is higher than 166, right? These are the results from my room. Almost double of what they consider to be present. So that's a very high number. Also, to further, drive this home, a couple months after I had this air test done, I also tested my body, and I tested my urine specifically, and so trichothecene group, and so they're looking at, again, there's a lot of trichothecenes. It's a very large group, also present in my body. So if you have somebody that's gaslighting you, that just says mold doesn't do that, everybody deals with mold, it's everywhere, it's ubiquitous, they're absolutely wrong. Yes, mold is ubiquitous in nature, and those of you that know me know that I love fungi. I have it everywhere, right? It's all over my house, and I love fungi, and not all fungi is bad, and not all mold is problematic. And yes, mold spores in the air is ubiquitous. You will always have more mold spores in the air. But molds that are rendered from water damaged building material can absolutely be an issue. And also, you should never have any type of mold growth anywhere within the building envelope, whether it's visible or not. It's always actionable, regardless of taxon. So at the end of the day, yep, mold is ubiquitous in nature. It absolutely serves its purpose in our, in our natural world, and we wouldn't be here without it. But you should never be living in a home that is water damaged, or in it, and it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter if it's visible or not. And I'll tell you what, a lot of times it's not visible. So follow your gut. And if you are somebody that is gaslighting your spouse, your family member, your friend, please educate yourself, because these things affect everybody. And those of us that are hypersensitive, we're just kind of the canaries in the mine. So I hope everybody is well on this Saturday. It's snowing. It's snowing here in Minnesota. So thanks for listening.